I'm 75 now, and I can't remember anybody except the Queen being there. It must have been so difficult for her, being a solitary woman.
It began as another quiet royal meeting, a private Sandringham summit focused on picture opportunities and spring charity programs. But what happened inside the golden doors was nothing short of explosive. According to palace sources, tempers erupted, and one royal figure, Queen Camilla, rushed out in embarrassment. But it wasn't the Queen consort's scream that really shocked people, but from the lady who turned it off. Princess Anne, the late Queen's only daughter, a lady noted for her steel spine, clipped tone, and reluctance to participate in media games. And this time, she made her point extremely obvious. Camilla and Princess Catherine apparently had a difficult talk before the confrontation. But when Camilla reportedly insulted not just Kate, but also Princess Diana's memory, Anne had reached her limit. According to royal aides, the chamber fell quiet when Anne uttered something so definitive and devastating that even King Charles couldn't speak, and within 24 hours, Camilla's name was abruptly deleted from 2 planned royal events. There's no explanation. There is no press release, just left. For royal watchers, this is more than just tabloid drama. It is the culmination of decades of suppressed hatred, tacit alliances, and a long-running war for the monarchy's soul. On one side is Catherine, the poised and loving future queen who embodies Diana's elegance without ever attempting to copy it. On the other side, Camilla, the woman long accused of arranging Diana's sorrow, is anxious to keep a crown she was never intended to wear. And in the center stood Princess Anne, the no-nonsense princess who saw it all unfold for years, remained silent, and ultimately decided enough was enough. What precisely transpired in that room? What did Camilla say to send Anne over the edge? And why is the public uniting around Catherine like never before? This is more than simply a quarrel. It is a royal reckoning. A line has been drawn, and one of the monarchy's most influential women has taken her side. Coming up, the private royal meeting that sparked it all, the whispered insults that escalated into a full-fledged battle, and how Princess Anne's strong stand may have effectively ended Camilla's reign in all but name. Because in this narrative, there are no accidents, only consequences. And this time, the retribution came from within the palace gates. The backdrop was intended to be serene, Sandringham House, hidden in the Norfolk countryside, and beloved by the late Queen Elizabeth II for its tranquility. But inside the ivy-covered walls, the royal family had assembled for a far less serene purpose, a strategic conference to discuss planned public engagements and long-term succession prospects. King Charles, ever the orthodox, gathered key people to a secret meeting. Queen Camilla, Princess Catherine, and Princess Anne were in attendance, along with a few top advisors. Notably absent, Prince William, a move that many now regard as purposeful and revealing. According to sources, Charles had personally requested Catherine's participation as a solo representative, ostensibly to test her independence and diplomatic abilities. She strolled into a setup rather than a meeting. Initially, the tone was cordial, albeit visibly tense. Catherine, ever composed, arrived with notes on public outreach, mental health programs, and youth-oriented charity. Her recommendations, however, were apparently received with disdainful stares from Camilla, who appeared determined to undermine her daughter-in-law at any costs. Witnesses reportedly described Camilla's behavior as cold, clipped, and unusually confrontational. One top advisor, commenting on the condition of anonymity, claimed that Camilla rolled her eyes several times and once mumbled, "We don't need another Diana performance, thank you." That was the moment the room altered. The temperatures plummeted. The air became dense. Catherine did not answer, not in words at least. She just looked down, corrected her notes, and proceeded. Princess Anne, seated nearby, appeared to stiffen. She put her pen down, her gaze fixed on Camilla. The tone of the gathering will never return. Camilla continued returning to Catherine, throwing subtle barbs, criticizing her choice of clothes for a recent engagement, claiming she was too polished to be accessible to ordinary mothers, and even doubting the effectiveness of her early childhood campaign. According to one attendee, Camilla stated, "It's all wonderful PR, but does it actually achieve anything? At this point, Princess Anne ended her quiet. "Enough," she allegedly stated, abruptly and clearly. "That's not constructive." Camilla, who was unaccustomed to opposition from inside the family, bristled. She attempted to shrug it off, adding, "Oh, Anne, don't tell me you've gone soft for Kate now." What ensued was far more forceful than a yelling fight. According to accounts, Anne delivered a single phrase that shook the room. "You were tolerated out of necessity," Anne said calmly, "but you will not insult her in front of me again." The hush that ensued was deafening. Charles allegedly sat rigid, his knuckles white against the armrest of his chair. Catherine remained cool, closing her folder and nodding pleasantly. Camilla's face became pale. She sprang up hastily and knocked over her teacup. She exited the room without saying a word. That moment, quick, violent, and uncensored, sent shockwaves throughout the palace. The advisors, who had previously been ready to support the Queen Consort, now turned their attention to Anne. The Princess Royal had etched a line in the sand, not with rage, but with determination. Murmurs spread rapidly in the hours that followed. The palace hallways were buzzing with curiosity. Was this the moment Anne snapped, or had she always intended to take a stance, waiting for the proper opportunity, target, and cause? Some claim it wasn't about Catherine at all. It was about Diana. For decades, Anne watched her sister-in-law's life collapse beneath the weight of Camilla's shadow. And now that Catherine had emerged as the new face of the kingdom, Anne was not going to let history repeat itself. Whatever the motivation, one thing was certain: the monarchy had just been rattled from within, not by scandal or leaks, but by a moment of truth that could not be avoided. And for Queen Camilla, the implications were only beginning. Camilla may have the title of Queen Consort, but in the eyes of the British people, she has never actually worn the crown. That distinction, whether uttered out or whispered between headlines, belongs to Catherine, Princess of Wales. Camilla's reality has long been a silent pain. Camilla's envy of Catherine has been simmering behind palace doors for years, according to many royal officials. What happened at Sandringham was not an unusual outburst, but the result of long-held resentment and silent uneasiness. The Queen Consort's grievances were not about etiquette or official obligations, they were personal, deeply so. Catherine's popularity has skyrocketed in recent years, beyond all expectations. Polls frequently show her as the most popular female royal, surpassing even Queen Elizabeth II in certain generational rankings. Her serene demeanor, innate empathy, and Diana-like elegance have made her not just a potential queen, but also the face of a new modern monarchy. Meanwhile, Camilla has suffered. Despite years of attempts to soften her image, public trust remains elusive. There has always been a shadow, molded by history, Diana's suffering, and Camilla's involvement in it. Though Charles has worked tirelessly for her complete acceptance, many Britons still regard her with suspicion, if not contempt. The actual animosity stems from this contrast between Catherine's apparent grace and Camilla's lasting reputation. According to leaked palace memos, Camilla has often complained about unfair press bias in favor of Catherine. One message, reportedly sent by a senior communications aide, describes Camilla's outrage at a Daily Mail headline that referred to Kate as Queen in Waiting. Another document expresses her dissatisfaction with social media trends that consistently praise Catherine while mocking Camilla's fashion choices and perceived coldness. Insiders also speculate that Camilla's public relations team is coordinating a campaign to undermine Catherine's rising celebrity. Some believe that murmurs about Kate's health, her brief public absence earlier this year, and tabloid conjecture about her marriage were strategically amplified by Camilla's close friends, but this has yet to be confirmed. Nonetheless, Catherine's ability to stay composed, silent, and undisturbed appeared to exacerbate Camilla's rage. "It drives her crazy," one courtier said. "Camilla is accustomed to having the sharpest voice in the room, but Catherine's stillness, her calm strength, is more potent than anything Camilla says." Then there's the more serious issue, Diana. Camilla has spent decades attempting to separate herself from the woman she was accused of ruining. But Catherine's similarity, not only physically, but also in manner, goal, and magnetism, reopens scars that the Queen Consort has never quite healed. Catherine is often regarded as Diana's spiritual heir, a wife who married into the firm, won the people's hearts, and emerged stronger than the crown itself. So, as Camilla gazed across the room at Sandringham, seeing Catherine deftly deflect criticism while surrounded by advisors who previously served Elizabeth but now tilt toward Kate, something in her snapped. She thought she had secured her place, one source explained, but when she saw Anne supporting Catherine, everything broke. She understood she could never completely win. That, maybe more than anything else, explains the Queen Consort's breakdown. Not politics, not power. However, she comes to the sad conclusion that, while she sits beside the king, Catherine rules in the hearts of the people. Princess Anne has never been one for drama. She does not weep on camera. She does not give emotional interviews, and she surely does not reveal information to the media. But when she does take a stand, it hits like a hammer. What transpired at Sandringham was not a moment of wrath, but of reckoning. It was decades in the making. To comprehend Anne's intervention on Catherine's behalf, one must first look back, not only at her friendship with Kate, but also at her closeness with Diana, Princess of Wales, whose legacy continues to haunt the castle. Contrary to popular opinion, Anne and Diana did not have a friendly, sisterly relationship. They were essentially different. Anne, the stoic worker, is strongly dedicated to duty and protocol. Diana, the emotional dynamo who won hearts with her sensitivity and charisma. Despite their disagreements, they had a quiet, reciprocal respect, a common awareness of what it meant to be smothered by the crown and ignored by the firm's icy machinery. Anne witnessed what happened to Diana. She watched as she was thrust into the limelight with little preparation, then criticized when she outperformed the others. She saw gaslighting, affairs, and isolation. And though Anne rarely mentioned it, sources say she deeply admired Diana's courage to break the mold, even if it made everyone uncomfortable. However, Anne saw the other side, Camilla. Camilla spent years operating in the shadows, her presence tolerated but never entirely embraced. Anne, a realist, regarded her not as a villain, but as a manipulator. According to royal sources, Anne has always felt Camilla inserted herself into Charles's life far too comfortably, particularly amid the breakup of his marriage to Diana. She never trusted Camilla's intentions, a former assistant stated. She believed Camilla used her influence in private while evading accountability in public. That did not sit well with Anne. So when Camilla openly re-entered royal life and finally became queen consort, it was not with Anne's approval, but with her quiet disgust. Fast forward to Sandringham, and everything Anne had hidden for years was suddenly in front of her. The same smirks, dismissive tones, and harsh comments were used, but this time they were aimed at Catherine rather than Diana. Anne didn't notice two ladies squabbling. She witnessed history repeating itself, and she refused to let it happen. Witnesses said Anne's voice stayed calm, but her comments were razor sharp. "You were never meant to be queen," she allegedly told Camilla, "and after this, you won't be." It was not a threat, it was a declaration. Camilla attempted to recover by giggling awkwardly and pushing Anne's comments away, but the harm had been done. Anne had spoken, and when she spoke, the palace listened. Anne's position heightens the intensity of the conflict. As the eldest daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and a royal who has served longer than nearly anybody living, she has power that goes beyond titles. She is not affected by popular opinion or tabloid trends. She is alone responsible for her mother's legacy and, increasingly, the monarchy's destiny. Anne believes Catherine deserves that future. Some insiders now feel Anne's support of Kate was not a spontaneous moment, but rather a signal. The old guard has its limitations, and even the queen consort is not immune to accountability. In that single encounter, Anne did more than merely defend Kate. She stood up for Diana, for every woman marginalized by palace politics, and she made it apparent that the palace may have publicly forgiven Camilla. However, behind closed doors, some wounds have never healed. King Charles has always walked a fine line, combining his private wants with the public image of the monarchy. But at Sandringham, that delicate balance collapsed. Camilla and Catherine's clash was more than just a family fight. It was a public relations time bomb, and Charles found himself at the middle of the explosion. Those who were there at the meeting believe Charles froze as Anne dealt her final blow to Camilla. "You were never meant to be queen." It was a sentence that Charles, more than anyone else, had spent decades proving false. He'd pushed for Camilla's acceptance despite controversy, anger, and even constitutional dispute, altering the monarchy to accommodate the woman he loved. And now, with a single statement, his sister had wrecked their delicate progress. According to sources, Charles remained silent for some minutes after Camilla stormed out. He merely sat there, pale and shocked, as Anne returned to her notes and Catherine discreetly collected her belongings. When he eventually rose to speak, it was not with authority, but with defeat. "Let's adjourn for now," he allegedly said. That was all. Behind closed doors, Charles was everything from calm. Aides said he walked his private quarters late into the night, making frantic calls to his press secretary, private secretary, and even Prince William. He saw that this was more than simply a personal disgrace. It was a potential constitutional catastrophe. Why? Because despite Charles's careful preparation, public opinion has never really welcomed Camilla. She has consistently ranked low in polls. And every time Catherine comes out, whether in a nice coat dress or just holding her children's hands, public opinion shifts strongly in her favor. Now that Princess Anne has joined what some see as the Kate camp, Charles faces the one thing monarchs fear the most: a broken firm. According to one royal source, Charles spent the next 48 hours working to contain the damage. He apparently contacted Anne and requested a private chat, but she rejected. "There's nothing left to discuss," she responded, according to the source. That rejection sent a clear message. Anne would not back down. Even more troubling for Charles was William's reaction. The Prince of Wales was informed of the Sandringham incident very immediately. Charles intended his son to take a neutral, diplomatic approach. Instead, William made it obvious that he fully backed Catherine. He reportedly praised Anne for standing up when I couldn't be there. That moment had a tremendous impact on Charles. He had lost control not just of the meeting, but also of the narrative. And, perhaps most bitterly, he had lost the trust of both his heir and his sister. In the days that followed, top palace advisors were spotted redrafting appearance schedules, reassigning ceremonial positions, and, most importantly, withdrawing Camilla from 2 forthcoming public appearances. Officially, no explanation was provided, but everyone in the palace knew the truth. The queen consort had been discreetly marginalized. Now, Charles finds himself in an unexpected situation. The lady he has spent his life safeguarding is being silently barred by his own blood, and with Anne unwilling to back down and William and Catherine increasing in popularity, the king is faced with a terrible question. Can he keep the kingdom together if no one is ready to follow him? For a man who has waited 70 years to wear the crown, the throne feels more precarious than ever because of an internal reckoning, not an external scandal. After the Sandringham explosion, Catherine, Princess of Wales, said nothing. No statements, no subtle barbs. There are no carefully crafted press leaks, at least not formally. Make no mistake, Catherine was not passive. She was strategic, and beneath that collected quiet was a masterpiece in royal power maneuvers. According to royal sources, Catherine arrived in Windsor calm as ever following her fight with Camilla. She cared for her children, resumed her regular commitments, and acted unaffected by the drama unfolding behind closed doors. But within the palace, her power grew. Immediately after the clash, numerous of Queen Elizabeth II's old advisors, who had previously kept a neutral posture, wanted to be shifted to Catherine's staff. According to a confidential assistant, the instant Anne spoke up, the tone inside the palace transformed. People began to silently coalesce with Kate. That shift was not an accident. It was earned. Catherine has established one of the most renowned public images in royal history. Scandal-free, dependable, and dignified. She never talks out of turn. She avoids political minefields. Most significantly, she never seems to retaliate. This has rendered her untouchable. And now, after being publicly assaulted by Camilla and supported by Anne, she is stronger than ever. Even while the media speculated about what was said at the notorious Sandringham conference, Catherine carried on with business as usual, or so it appeared. Behind the scenes, small but significant changes were already taking place. Her publicity team discreetly increased coverage of her early years campaign, securing exclusive articles in major UK publications. Photos of Catherine visiting with moms and educators, dressed simply, dominating headlines for many days. The message was clear. Here is the future queen, empathetic, grounded, regal. She also canceled one tiny event, citing scheduling conflicts. Despite its insignificance, her decision sparked widespread media coverage. Was it health-related? Was she upset? The palace provided no comment, but the tale spread like wildfire, putting her as the center of royal conversation. And when she reappeared a few days later, beaming and dazzling, the people let out a collective sigh of relief. She had weathered yet another royal storm and emerged much more revered. Royal watchers swiftly began to compare her to Diana, not only in terms of attractiveness or popularity, but also in terms of political acumen. Diana utilized interviews, a historian observed, but Catherine utilizes quiet, and in today's environment, that is considerably more potent. Even more striking were the subtle relationships that emerged. Princess Anne, who is still upset over Camilla's actions, has allegedly begun asking Catherine to accompany her to important functions, further excluding Camilla from the core royal circle. According to a palace insider, Charles and Camilla are no longer setting the tone. It's Anne and Kate. In private, Catherine is reported to be courteous. She hasn't said anything against Camilla, but she does not have to. Her allies speak for her. Her presence speaks for her. The public's overwhelming support speaks volumes. What transpired at Sandringham was more than just a personal insult. This was a power test. While Camilla crumbled under pressure, Catherine remained composed, patient, and precise. Because in the realm of royal politics, being silent is not a sign of weakness, it's a calculation. And Catherine, without saying a word, may have gained an advantage in a monarchy seeking to define its new period. Something unusual occurred in the days after the Sandringham battle. Queen Camilla's name has been removed, discreetly and neatly, from two forthcoming royal festivities. There's no explanation. There is no palace statement, just gone. While the official calendar made no mention of drama, those behind the royal gates understood precisely what had transpired. Camilla had been forbidden, not permanently, not with a public edict. However, silence and isolation are the most important methods used within the firm. She was no longer allowed in rooms where influence is shaped. That was made possible by someone other than the king. It was not Catherine, it was Princess Anne. For years, Anne remained silent. She played the role of an obedient princess, keeping her ideas to herself and focusing on duty. But when the queen consort insulted both Catherine and Diana's memory, Anne had reached her limit. And in that moment, with a single remark, she did something no one else had dared to do since Camilla's ascent to prominence. She said no, and with that, the tide turned. Behind closed doors, personnel started to defer to Catherine. The advisors swapped camps. Even Prince William, who is normally reserved in public, strongly supported his wife. The message was clear. The monarchy's destiny does not lay with Charles and Camilla. It is up to Catherine and those ready to defend her. Camilla, once an outsider who battled her way into royal acceptability, is now again on the outside. This time, it was a quiet, purposeful rejection from within the family rather than a public protest. And Princess Anne? She isn't rejoicing. She isn't gloating. She's merely doing what her mother taught her, putting responsibility ahead of comfort and pointing out the rot before it spreads. As the monarchy attempts to maintain stability in uncertain times, one thing is certain: battle lines have been drawn. This time, the royal reckoning didn't come from scandal or journalistic leaks, but from a single lady who decided enough was enough. Camilla crossed a line, and Anne deleted her from the room.